Hey everyone, welcome to day 20 of our YouTube experiment. Actually, I think it's day 21. We do daily YouTube videos on different business opportunities, different business trends, side hustles, and various ways for you to make money. So if you like what we are doing, please like, please subscribe, please comment, please send me a tweet, please do something to show us that you like what we are doing.
Also comment who's wearing a better t-shirt.
Clearly me, man. You can see more of my chest hair. It looks better. Okay, so today's topic is going to be high-tech agriculture in India. So first of all, Siddharth, what the hell is high-tech agriculture? Actually, no. I want to start with something else.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to start with, this is when we were researching this topic, we found something that I was kind of shocked by. There's this tiny country in Europe called the Netherlands, where Amsterdam is, right? And you would think this tiny country in Europe, it's so high up north, it must not be doing a lot of farming, it must not be doing a lot of exports of various like vegetables and stuff. But the Netherlands is like, I think, top three vegetable exporter in the world. They do $111 billion of farming exports in, I think this was in 2019. India is not that much higher than the Netherlands. So how can this tiny country do almost the same as a giant India, where India has fertile soil, India has the Ganga, India has so many things in its favor. So,
also, by the way, Netherlands has weather that doesn't support a lot of agriculture, right? It's extremely cold most of the year.
Yeah, and it's technically most of it is under the sea level. So how the hell do they do this? Right. So this is all down to high-tech farming. Siddharth, what is high-tech farming?
Yeah, I mean, as the name suggests, basically what they've been able to do is innovate on different kinds of technologies to grow food. Some examples of that could be soil-less farming, which is basically hydroponics and aquaponics. They've done they've done innovations in terms of mushroom farming, indoor farming, a bunch of different things. Basically using technology to increase the yield of your produce significantly and alter the conditions that natural conditions that you have.
That yield increase that is talking about can be 5 to 8 times. It is very significant. So what we did is we spoke to various people in this field. We spoke to some of India's biggest hydroponics people, some of India's biggest aquaculture people, mushroom farmers, seaweed farmers, because we wanted to learn more about this. In fact, Siddharth at one point was a hydroponics farmer. So this is something that we were really excited about researching, and there are so many interesting nuggets that we got from this. So why hydroponics in India, right? Because we're such a large country, we have the soil. Why would we want to do the same playbook as the Netherlands?
Yeah. So one of the problems that India has is while it has a lot of land and the right weather, but land holdings are extremely small. I think that's one of the reasons. I think less than an acre, 0.84 acre per farmer, right? What that basically does is nobody can really afford mechanization. Nobody can really afford automation, right? You need large land holdings to actually do that. And that's what US and Netherlands and other countries have been able to figure out, right? That's the first basic step why you need to, why India is struggling in terms of agriculture produce. Why high tech is because it gives you more control, right? What I mean by that is when you do, let's say, farming on the soil, you're dependent on the soil nutrition, you're dependent on the weather, you're dependent on a bunch of other things that are outside your control and which affect yields. High tech farming, hydroponics, can make it sort of an industry, a factory. Put the right inputs, you'll get the right outputs, the desired outputs, right? Maintain the temperature, put certain kinds of nutrients in the water, grow it at a certain humidity, all of those things, and you're going to get consistent output. You need consistent output to build a business, right? If it's going to go up and back and forth in terms of supply, you're not going to be able to build a consistent business.
So now getting down to the brass tacks of how much money is there in the world for high-tech farming. So we pulled out a few numbers about the world market size for certain things and about where India stands. Okay, and I was kind of shocked by how far behind India is on certain things. So floriculture, which is the growth of flowers. So generally, flowers need a very controlled environment, and high-tech farming, hydroponics is one of the best applications for floriculture. Globally, the market for flowers is $43 billion. A lot of this is actually happening in East Africa. How much does India do? Siddharth, you want to guess?
$50 million.
Yeah, $75 million. I think you knew the answer.
I knew.
So India is doing only $75 million of floriculture. Aquaculture is a huge market. Aquaculture is the farming of fish. Now, this is surprising. India is actually one of the biggest fish exporters in the world. We do $5 billion globally of aquaculture. Mushrooms.
Before you go to mushrooms, I don't know if our listeners know this. Aquaculture and hydroponics can be combined to form aquaponics, which is where you're, farming fish technically and using the waste, so whatever the fish excrete, as nutrients for your plant. So it's like a cyclical system, and it's actually pretty profitable.
I think I've actually seen this once before, where I think on top there was some fish and at the bottom there were some plants growing, something like that. I don't know if I want to eat stuff made from fish fertilizer. Moving on, mushrooms. I was shocked by how big the mushroom market is globally. It is $17 billion. I was not able to find reliable numbers for the Indian mushroom industry, but I think it is. I think it's around 100 crores max of exports of mushrooms. So that's around $15 million. I think it's actually less than that. I think it's maybe.
We do 1 or 2% of the global market in India,
it's
right?
Tiny.
So it's tiny.
Yeah. Seaweed. This is where I was really shocked. The global seaweed market, seaweed, I couldn't believe seaweed, is $6 billion. It's huge. And India does almost nothing, despite the giant coastline that we have in the peninsula. Tamil Nadu is one of the best places to grow seaweed. Kutch is one of the best places to grow seaweed, but we barely do any seaweed production. We spoke to the first seaweed.
People will need to understand what is seaweed farming, right? When we first read it, by the way, it was in the budget of 2021. Seaweed farming was getting an allocation of 60 crores or something. I don't remember the number. Don't quote me on it. But it was getting an allocation to do a multi-purpose seaweed park.
In the federal budget of 2021, in the speech given by Nirmala Sitharaman.
Yeah. When Sahil and I read it, we were like, who's going to eat so much seaweed? Because that's the only use case we had in our heads, of like people eat seaweeds in Japanese and different cuisines. Turns out seaweed is actually a raw material for a bunch of different companies, bunch of different products. It's a gelling agent. It's a thickening agent.
It's a biostimulant. So now this is, okay, they're going a tangent, but India was one of the first countries in the world to have a biostimulant law. And there's a company, I think it's based in Bangalore. It's called C6 Energy. And this company is one of the first companies in the world to get a patent for biostimulants. And their biostimulants come from seaweed.
We technically could go down into what biostimulants is, but that's for a later video.
Let's not do that.
Yeah, exactly.
So who are the major players in the high-tech farming industry in India? Siddharth.
Yeah. So starting out with
reading the list that we have.
Yeah. Starting out with hydroponics, Landcraft Agro, they're a recent startup in this space and they're fairly big. There's Urban Kisan.
We did a podcast with Landcraft Agro. It should be coming out in the next couple of weeks in Hindi. Yeah.
Go ahead. So then there's Urban Kisan, which recently raised funding from the founders of Snapdeal. That's doing some interesting work in hydroponics. So that's a very early stage field right now. Hydroponics, a lot of action there. Check out the newsletter that we have. We have listed down all the companies that are playing in that space. In mushroom farming, we actually spoke to Jiva Foods, which is the third largest mushroom producer in Maharashtra. Sahil, if you remember, I know you were not there for the episode. If you remember, how much do they produce in a month?
50 tons.
100 tons. 100 tons of mushrooms in a month in a factory-like setting. It's amazing. From that conversation was really an eye-opener in terms of how high-tech farming can be done and what are the challenges. Whatever said and done, there are some challenges. there is a learning curve, and we spoke about how to overcome that, right? Then there's seaweed farming. Okay, we spoke to the largest producer of seaweed in India, Aqua Agri Processing. Aqua Agri, yeah.
Aqua Agri Processing, yeah.
Yeah. They do, how much do they do? Do you remember?
I think they do about 150 crores, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
In turnover.
It's shocking. It's shocking that they do that much turnover.
And it was a business that was started by a gentleman while he was at Pepsi because of certain government restrictions in terms of exports. And then when he was leaving it, he just bought it from Pepsi because he was the only person who knew how to run that business.
Or who probably cared about it.
Or who probably, exactly. I mean, again, 150 crores is nothing for Pepsi, not a focus area for them. But he was passionate about it, obviously. Yeah. So seaweed, such an exciting place.
Let's move into the opportunities. But before we move into the opportunities, there's one thing I want to talk about. The biggest risk with high-tech farming is it is a capital-intensive market. The mushroom farmer that we spoke to, Jiva Foods, he raised a lot of capital before he got into it. He didn't give us the exact number, I think, but he raised a good chunk of money. When we spoke to the hydroponics people, they told us that hydroponics will be about 1 to 2 crores per acre. Not cheap. Aquaculture, around 3 to 4 crores per acre. Aquaponics, sorry. About 3 to 4 crores per acre. Not cheap at all. But if you're able to scale it, if you're able to make it run efficiently like a factory, that's how this is supposed to be. And you will start seeing, I'm forgetting my words. You will start seeing
returns.
Economies of scale. You start seeing economies of scale because this is a very factory-like setting.
Yeah. So one of the things that he mentioned was the capital investment. While it's a risky thing to do because you're learning a lot of these technologies, they're not in India as much. So you're learning from people who are outside, trying to make it work in India, all of those things. But the barriers to entry are also very high, right? He actually wanted to get into something that was capital intensive because so that it's not going to become extremely competitive. Anything that is, low capital ends up becoming extremely competitive.
Like YouTube and podcasts.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody can start it. We started it. So that's the thing. But the other thing that I will mention about farming, it's unlike software where you can iterate very fast, where you can just write a line of code and see if it works. Farming takes a bit to iterate because if you go wrong, your cycle for that particular growing cycle goes wrong for 2, 3, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever it is, and then you have to experiment the next time and get it right. Again, all of these things also come with the other side, which is if you figure it out, there's a lot of money to be made.
Okay, what are the opportunities? So number one,
obvious.
Build your own bloody farm. Build your own mushroom farm, build your own hydroponics farm, build something, right? Because this field is so new that there are new farms coming up literally like every month you hear about a new one coming up.
If anybody is getting into seaweed, I will invest and I will help you raise. Seaweed is just so obvious, especially if you're thinking about biostimulants. It's such an obvious field. 5, 7 years, 10 years down the line, if you're continuing this podcast, Sahil and I will look back at this time and think about why the hell did we not invest. So if anybody is doing seaweed, reach out to us.
Yeah. So number one, build your own high-tech farm. Number two, aquaculture is still growing really fast in India. India is already really big in aquaculture. It's a $5 billion market in India. In fact, there's one company, I forgot the name, but they're doing about 500 crores, or is it 5,000 crores in revenue in aquaculture?
5,000 crores, Avanti Feeds.
Yeah, sorry, Avanti Feeds. They're doing 5,000 crores. It's a big industry, but it's growing fast. So if you're okay with the idea of killing fish, get into aquaculture. Number three, urban farms. So I live in Andheri West in Bombay. In Andheri East, there's a company. I'm really bad at names, sorry. that rented a warehouse, and in that warehouse, I think it's just like 1,200 square feet. In that warehouse, they're growing hydroponics, vertical farming, vegetables. and they're supplying to the whole of the Andheri area, right? So in places in metros like Bombay, Bangalore, Delhi, a lot of people, a lot of rich urban people, they want to move their eating lifestyle to eat food that is more local, to eat food that is more organic. If you can tell somebody like, hey, I grew your food like 1 kilometer away,
Come check it out.
yeah, you can come check out my farm. A lot of people will buy it. And a
Yeah.
lot of people will buy baskets because you need the vegetables every week, every month. So
And the other
you
thing
get that
with
flow.
And the other thing with hydroponics is you can actually supply lettuce and other green leafy vegetables, even though the weather outside might not permit it, but you've controlled the temperature and everything. So you can grow it technically throughout the year, right?
Yeah. Number four, and this is where actually a friend of mine started this 5 or 6 years ago. I thought he was crazy. But now I'm talking about it. Floriculture. India is doing only $75 million of floriculture exports. It's a bloody giant market abroad. The export opportunity for this is immense. It is absolutely immense. There's a big change happening in the floriculture market right now globally, and I think India is in an opportunity, is in a place right now where it can take advantage of that opportunity. Okay, that
Yeah.
was number four. Number five, Siddharth, this is going to
Yeah.
be your idea.
Yeah. So one of the things that we love talking about is building picks and shovels businesses for industries that are growing at a fast pace. In this case, picks and shovels obviously has a pun intended connotation there, but a lot of these high tech farms will need some sort of automation, right? Think about the large warehouse that Sahil was talking about, vertical farms. You're not going to be able to check every single plant to see if everything is going all right or not. That's where IoT comes in. That's where software comes in. If you can figure out interesting use cases using sensors and software to alert these farmers that, hey, something is off and you need to look at this, I think that has export potential that can be used across the globe, and India is also going to be a huge market for it because automation is the foundation for doing high tech farming.
Because it is a factory in the end. Efficiency, efficiency, efficiency. We spoke about this in the Cloud Kitchens episode as well. All of these new, like very factory based things that were originally artwork, like farming used to be like artwork, right? It was not scientific. But now it is extremely scientific. If you can make it more efficient, people will give you a lot of money to help them make their farm more efficient.
Yeah.
Cool.
If you're looking to get into hydroponics, we can connect you to some people, reach out to us. If you're looking to get into mushroom farming, we can connect you to someone. If you're looking to get into seaweed farming, we can connect you to someone. We also have podcasts on all three topics in the show notes. IoT and SaaS in the farming field or high tech farming, we can actually connect you to someone who's doing that. And I would love to know what you're doing and see if we can help out in some way.
Fantastic. Thanks a
Yeah.
lot, Siddharth. And thank you for listening. If you like this episode, please like, please subscribe, please click on that notification button. Please send us an email, tweet at me, send me a
Comment.
snail mail, say hi,
Hi.
Sahil, send me a gift. I'll give you my address. I like books. So please send me some books. And let's become pen pals. See you guys.